Greetings, friends. Kambria Evans here, the teaching and learning EMDR consultant. And y'all, today we are talking about a super juicy topic. Folks are going to have a lot of feelings about this, and that's okay, because here on the Zero Disturbance podcast, we welcome having thoughtful clinical conversations on behalf of clients and therapists. So what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about mindset work. And I'm going to be dissecting with you what's wrong with mindset work. Now, this episode is for clients, therapists, and it's for coaches, right? And I'm not knocking coaches. I am a coach. And I think that this conversation can help a lot of us create some nuances around how to do mindset work effectively and safely with the people that we're supporting. If you are someone who's tried mindset work for yourself or you're trying to do mindset work, you're not going to want to miss this conversation. So let's get started. So what is mindset work? So typically when we think about these kind of, sensationalized phrases on Instagram and social media, it's like mindset work and habit formation. What we're talking about basically is some kind of encouraging script or message that you can manifest a belief, or you can manifest a sense of self, you can manifest a behavior, a habit, if you just do X, Y, and Z algorithm or formula. And I think as an EMDR consultant, I want to break down how and when this can be helpful and how and when this can be harmful, okay? Let's talk about when it can be helpful, and we're going to use an EMDR clinical lens to understand this. So we know as EMDR clinicians that when someone comes to us and they want to create a different narrative of self and the world by desensitizing traumatic events from the past, what we're always thinking about and looking for as a clinician is what has been learned or decided before about self or the world, right? We don't care so much about the details of the traumatic event itself, right? Because what's still with somebody is what I decided about myself in the world and what adaptations I created to be able to cope with what happened and help me moving forward with a positive intention. So when we have decided things about ourselves in the world, what that means is, in EMDR basic training, we get a list of positive cognitions and negative cognitions. And typically, among most EMDR basic trainings, these beliefs are categorized into 4 different buckets. And those categories of buckets are, number 1, typically something like sense of self, like I am good or I am bad. There's a whole bunch of nuances in there, like I am worthy, I'm attractive, or I am unworthy, I'm unattractive. Typically, these things are decided about self at a very young age as we're integrating our sense of self as a child, okay? The second bucket typically is around a sense of responsibility or blame, right? These cognitions tend to be around things like, I shouldn't have ... or I should have known better, or something's wrong with me because ... The next 2 categories are really focused around safety and control and power. And oftentimes these things can be decided or learned in relationship with our primary caregivers, like I am safe, I am not safe. That can be physically, emotionally, right? And then control and power really has an expansiveness to it around, the timeline of when these things are learned or decided. Okay, so why am I talking about all of this? I'm talking about all of this because when we have someone approach us and tell us, you feel bad about yourself? You have a negative story about yourself or about your life? Well, we're just going to come in and we're going to do some mindset work. We're going to do some habit formation. We're going to do some CBT or talk therapy to make sure that you rewrite your narrative. And I think what's beautiful about this is if the things that we are trying to grow or expand that are positive, right? And again, this intention is positive that coaches and others are doing this. If we have already got a positive belief about self or the world, And we want to use mindset work to grow that positive belief. That's amazing. That's beautiful. I mean, that's essentially what phase 2 of EMDR is. It's figuring out what is available with the client to expand into a really juicy, positive resource. And we notice as EMDR clinicians that we can't do phase 2 resourcing with certain people when we rigidly try to install things like a safe place or a calm place because they have adaptations and resistances to protect them around feeling safe or calm. An example of this is I can't let my body be calm or safe because if I'm not hypervigilant, an adaptation, something bad's going to happen to me. I'm in danger. It's unsafe. Okay? So you'll see a lot of EMDR clinicians get really frustrated, like, well, why can't I install this positive resource? And I'm going to tell you why. It's a really simple answer. And if we zoom out, it makes a lot of damn sense. We can't install a positive resource if there is, A, not a positive belief already formulated to attach it to and expand. And we really can't install a positive resource in certain clinical categories if there is an active adaptation working its butt off to make sure that doesn't happen. Another example of this is when I do phase 2 resourcing with people and I try to install a nurturing figure for them. It is very common that some of my clients will say, I have no nurturing figure to install in my real life or in my imagination, because I literally get so upset about the idea of being nurtured because there was no one to nurture me. Okay? So me pushing and pushing and pushing to install something positive for this particular client is actually traumatizing them. It's actually bringing up grief about what they do not have and have not had yet. This is effectively why phase 2 of EMDR is so hard for some clinicians, because they don't understand this yet. And this is exactly why mindset work can feel so shitty for people because they're being told, go look in the mirror and tell yourself it's going to be a great day. Well, if someone's able to take that in and they don't have any adaptations protecting them from that belief, they don't have any negative cognitions that are going to bump up against that, totally go look in the mirror, expand that belief, live it, be in it, feel amazing. God bless. But if you tell someone to go look in the mirror and look at yourself and say, I am beautiful, this is mindset work. Just look at yourself and tell yourself, I am beautiful. If this person has a deeply rooted negative cognition of, I am ugly, because this is what was told to them on the playground every day in elementary school because of their size, color of their skin, whatever it is, gender orientation. If someone has this negative belief based on a real traumatic experience, and then they go look in the mirror and they're supposed to tell themselves, okay, I feel shitty, but if I just tell myself I am beautiful, I'm going to feel better. Even though this is actively bumping up a negative belief, actively bumping up against adaptations of protection, most likely. An adaptation around this might be something like, well, I can be the smart girl. I don't have to be the pretty girl, right? Because I could never be the pretty girl, but I can be smart. Being pretty isn't important. So even doing mindset work, even doing installation of resources in phase 2 as an EMDR therapist can trigger the shit out of somebody. And what we don't want to do is that. Because what happens is someone goes and looks in the mirror and, okay, I'm supposed to say I'm beautiful. All this stuff gets lit up for them like a damn Christmas tree, and their nervous system and their neural networks and all their memories start linking together. And what happens? There's 2 things. 1, they don't feel beautiful. 2, they feel triggered because all that shit's coming up and there's no container for it. They're just alone with it again, re-traumatized. Okay? So I guess that's actually 3 negative things. So I want us to think about this when we invite someone to do mindset work, when we ourselves think, I'm supposed to be doing mindset work. And then, number 4 that might happen, which is kind of like the shitty icing on the cake, is feeling like a failure. I went and looked in the mirror. I did the mindset work like my coach told me to do, or like my talk therapist told me to do, or my CBT, and it didn't work. I felt triggered and re-traumatized. And now I feel like a failure. Okay? So why am I telling you all of this? Because I think everyone has such a positive intention with things like mindset work, things like habit formation. If you do this for 30 days, it becomes a habit. Well, for some of us, that might be true. We might be able to reprogram and rewire our brains because neuroplasticity is super, super real. And if you tell an addict or someone who identifies as an addict, you can change your habits, you can change your compulsive behaviors, right? And they try, and it doesn't work. We can re-traumatize them. I am a failure. And then what happens? They have a learning experience where they actually start to believe it's not even worth trying because I'm never going to change this. It is very hard to pull someone out of that place. So we need to be very careful. And how we do this as EMDR clinicians, and how we can do this even as coaches, is to understand our clients' scaffolding. What does that mean? It means we better have a damn good lay of the land around negative beliefs and positive beliefs before we assign mindset work in the mirror, before we tell someone they can change a habit in 30 days. I mean, before we try to install resources in phase 2 based on the 3 resources we got in our basic training that are supposedly supposed to work for everyone, right? This assumption of like, everyone will feel good and positive in a calm place. False. A lot of us didn't get to be calm because if we were, something bad happened because our guard was down. Okay? So y'all know that I do not believe in creating content lists of trauma. What I believe in doing is having a deep understanding, a nuanced understanding of what positive beliefs have been learned and decided, what negative beliefs have been learned or decided, and then from there to create a customized formula, because every person's different, to customize resources to create for that person so that we are building on positive beliefs that are already there, positive experiences of self that already are there, right? And if we have massive negative cognitions, we need to tread lightly. It doesn't mean don't create a resource there to balance it out positively. It doesn't mean don't go near it. It just means use some nuanced thoughtfulness around it. Okay. And in the next episode, I am going to be doing a really deep dive into how we can resource ourselves, really, because I actually believe every single person, if they have an understanding of themselves in terms of what they learned or decided, what positive and negative beliefs are available to them, they can figure out what feels good and what doesn't, right? They can figure out, we talked about negative triggers and positive triggers. We're going to deep dive all the way into that, so that everyone watching this will be able to safely resource themselves based on a deep understanding of self. How do we get that? Well, I'm offering several free resources. And when you opt into the Zero Disturbance mailing list, if you've already opted in, it's already in your Zero Disturbance library. And we're going to keep building and adding those resources in there for you, right? About positive, negative triggers, about resourcing yourself, about how to understand your negative and positive beliefs, because this is something that I think everyone should have access to. This is something my EMDR clients have access to, like within the first couple sessions of working with me, right? They have tools to see a mirror of themselves that guides our treatment plan and our work together. Okay. So we talked about mindset work, when it's effective, when it's not, habit formation, when it's effective, when it's not. We've talked about what is needed to customize those curriculums for people to try on so they don't feel like they're going to be a failure if they don't get it, right? Or they can't do it or doesn't stick because there's so many adaptations pushing against it. There's so many negative beliefs that need to be desensitized first, right? It's kind of like this analogy of, we all have these alarm. We all live in houses, right, that are our nervous system in our body. And everyone's house is built differently, right? Everyone's narrative of self, narrative of the world is differently based on their experiences. And every house has an alarm system, right? So the house has scaffolding, right? Built on positive and negative beliefs. And then we have these really amazing, complex protective alarm systems that are our adaptations. And the adaptations are there to make sure that we don't get hurt like that again, or we don't have to see that part of ourselves because it's too painful. We have this scaffolding of positive and negative beliefs. We have this alarm system of adaptations. And we need to understand the house someone lives in first, period. Because if you come over to my house and I've got my scaffolding and I've got my alarm systems, and you're like, just do this, you better make damn sure that what you're offering me is going to work with my current scaffolding. It's going to work with my current alarm system and my adaptations. Otherwise, what you're offering me is it's like noodles on a wall. It's just like throwing pasta against the wall and it slides on down. Nothing's going to permeate. Nothing's going to impact. It might be upsetting that it's not permeating and working and helping me, but this is kind of how silly. I mean, imagine someone coming over to your house and literally throwing spaghetti on your front door. This is visualize that. This is how silly this is to think that these mindset messages and habit formation programs are going to impact everyone in the same way. Okay? And I think that there is a lot of money to be made in the mental health and wellness field. And unfortunately, not a lot of people who have large platforms, I don't think they fully understand that what they say really influences not just clients, but like colleagues and peers too. So I just want everyone to be mindful of this. I also want to say something too, which is that, I have a lot of clients who have had past abuse and trauma. They're in current abuse and trauma. I would never give them blanket mindset work. I would never say to them from a position of privilege, right, as a resourced white woman, say to them, well, if you just do your manifestation exercises and your mindset work, right, and your habit formation, then you can build the life you want. Because I think there's a social justice issue at play too, which is that there are people in different categories of life that can manifest as hard as they possibly want to. And it's not going to change the fact that they live in oppressive systems where they are being denied certain rights, where they are being gaslit, where they are being abused. It's not going to change the fact that a lot of people, a lot of women are living in domestic violence situations. It doesn't matter how hard they manifest or change. I mean, we have to be really nuanced and careful about when we sell hope and when we sell tools to someone packaged as mindset and manifestation. Let's be a lot more thoughtful about all the ears that are listening to us, especially those of us that have large platforms, because there is maybe nothing more crushing than trying something when you are in a place of vulnerability, desperation, chaos, and having it fail. That in itself is a learning experience. That in itself reaffirms a lot of negative beliefs. Okay? So I hope that this was helpful today. I know that, again, I think everyone's coming at this with a positive intention. And my hope, my intention for making this video today is that no matter who's listening to me can understand the nuances when mindset work makes sense and when it is really dangerous, and we need to be a lot more thoughtful about what it is that we're saying. So if you're somebody who's curious about what you have learned or decided already, in order to help you resource yourself, I would invite you to go ahead and get our beliefs inventory guide on the Zero Disturbance resource bundle. Because next episode, I am going to be walking you through how to resource yourself. And we're going to be using EMDR-informed clinical reasoning and EMDR-informed techniques to help you take your positive and negative belief inventory and then customize your own resources. Whether you're doing this on your own with no therapist, whether you're doing this with a therapist, whether they're EMDR trained or not, anyone can butterfly hug and tap in positive resources. It's just a matter of understanding which ones are going to feel the best for you based on lots of things like negative triggers, positive triggers, beliefs. And I'm so excited to be able to spread the word about how we can do this for ourselves. If you're a therapist watching this, how you can do this for your clients, okay? So I hope that you have enjoyed a thoughtful, passionate clinical conversation with me today on the Zero Disturbance podcast. And I will look forward to seeing you next time when we discuss all things resourcing and get you geared up to resource yourself and feeling better soon. So in the meantime, please take care.